Hello and welcome to Surveyor Says, the podcast from the National Society of Professional Surveyors. Each week, we bring you fascinating guests that are involved in the profession of surveying. We cover a lot of ground, including Table A Talk with Gary Kent, Point of Order with the NSPS Joint Government Affairs Team, Future Focus, highlighting current and future leaders of the profession, and everything survey-related in between. Thanks for joining us here on the podcast, and hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of Surveyor Says. Hello and welcome to another episode of Surveyor Says. My name is Tim Birch, your host, and I got to check my notes here. I think this is episode 160, and we're in the middle of Women's History Month, which really coincides with a great opportunity to do more with women in surveying. And we had a great one last week with Amanda Allred, our current president. And you know what? I'm going to gander that I've got just as good a guest this week because she is a dynamo. I got to meet her in Montana recently, and you know what? I'll be honest with you, Jamie, I've been looking forward to this conversation all week. So I'm speaking with Jamie Reed. She is a professional land surveyor with Sand Surveying in Kalispell, Montana. So Jamie, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into the business, where you're at, and who is Jamie Reed?
All right. Well, thank you, Tim. I am Jamie Reed. I grew up in Columbia Falls, Montana, born and raised here in this small little town in the Northwest, not too far from Glacier National Park, not too far from Flathead Lake, just a beautiful area. So I've chosen not to leave the area. My husband and I, we have 3 kids, ages 6, 9, and 17. So they keep us pretty busy on top of all of the surveying work that I do. I work for Sand Surveying here in Kalispell, and I have been surveying with them for the last 23 years. As soon as I got out of college at Flathead Valley Community College, I immediately got a job with them, and I've been with them ever since. I've now been a partner in the company for 12 years, and I've been licensed for the last 15.
Very good. Very good. Well, and I guess a couple of questions in getting to know more and more surveyors from around the country. Yes, like you said, you're outside of Glacier. It's beautiful. What's it like working there? I mean, are you able to take in that beauty literally every time you go to the field?
Absolutely. I love the field work that we do here. It's not always easy. We're right in the Rocky Mountains. We have forests everywhere. And so GPS can be a challenge. So we still do a lot of total station work. We still run 2-man crews. We do have, robotic equipment and we do run a lot of RTK, but at the same time, we know the difficulties that those challenges face in the trees. And so we just are cognizant of that and work around that. But it's just absolutely gorgeous every time I go out. I don't care where we are. There's always something great to look at.
That's awesome. Hey, and for our New York listeners out there who threw a comment at me a little while ago about being west of the Mississippi in public land states and flat as a pancake and easy surveying, I think Jamie has a different take on that.
So if you cross the Continental Divide into eastern Montana, you have a little bit easier time. You might get into those flatter plains. I mean, we still have the rolling hills and the coulees and everything in eastern Montana and some mountains, but the western part of the state here, we have a lot of terrain.
Pretty rugged, very, yeah. And like you said, I can't imagine. It is so beautiful out there. I can't imagine, like you said, going out every day, and it just makes your job that much more enjoyable to go out and be in that kind of an environment.
Yeah, I've surveyed halfway up the Rocky Mountain front, being dropped off by a helicopter. I've been on Flathead Lake doing cross sections. I've been doing cross sections on 45 miles of the Stillwater River in eastern Montana. I'm in the Yellowstone River through Stillwater County, excuse me. mapping that in November, which in Montana is not the best weather for being on a river in the cold and the snow, but we made it work.
Yes. The current NSBS director, Mr. Matt Morris, has shared several stories about the challenges of wintertime in especially the northern part, north and western parts of Montana. And bitter cold and a little bit of snow. And like you said, then the terrain. So it's by no means an easy job at times, but still all together, it is a gorgeous area. So I am a little jealous of that and having to have experienced that, which was awesome. I do want to step back way early in I guess more of your life than that even predates the career. Can we talk about TrigStar for a second and your experiences with TrigStar? Because I've heard several stories, several corroborating stories with you and TrigStar and your experience and positive experience. And tell us a little bit about how you came across and experienced TrigStar.
So I'm one of the few, but TrigStar is actually what got me into surveying. In junior high, our valley has a program called Expanding Your Horizons. And that was a program for junior high girls to get introduced to STEM programs and professions. And so I went to that, and there were 2 women surveyors who were there, and they gave us a demonstration on surveying equipment, and we took us out in the field. And the one thing that still sticks in my mind from that experience is they taught me with instruments how to measure the height of a tree. I know that doesn't sound super exciting.
Oh, it is.
And then I jumped into high school, and we had other surveyors come into our classrooms and give a demonstration on surveying. They showed the equipment, they showed what they do, they talked about what they did, and then they gave us the TrigStar test. And I was a straight A student in high school. I loved math, I loved science, and I can tell you I failed miserably that TrigStar test. But it got those surveyors in the classroom to be able to talk about surveying and what it's all about. And it stuck with me. So even though I went to college and I went down to Dillon and Western Montana College for a year, I was thinking I was going to be a math teacher with a minor in music. That didn't work out. I came back up to Flathead Valley Community College here in Kalispell, got introduced to the surveying instructor there, and just absolutely fell in love with it. And so with that, now I do a lot of TrigStar work. I still do Expanding Your Horizons. I'm a merit badge counselor for the Surveying Merit Badge with Scouts BSA. I just think it's so important to get those kids introduced to surveying, because that's how I was introduced to surveying.
Well, like I said, I'd heard this story from a couple of different people that, and it's fantastic. I mean, you're hitting on what the story needs to be told out there about the intention of TrigStar. And it's about exposing a whole bunch of kids to a wonderful profession. And I'm going to come back on a little story from the board meeting in which I was talking there at Montana. And I must apologize to you on the record here, because I said, when I give a presentation, I'm after the B plus to C minus students. And yes, you were a straight A student, and I didn't mean to any disrespect to you at all.
No, not at all.
But the profession's all the better because you found this through TrigStar, and we're forever grateful to the TrigStar program to have exposed it and brought you in. So, like I said, no disrespect meant there, but I felt bad that I said it.
But you're absolutely correct, Tim, because now that, I've done TrigStar since I got into surveying. So it's been 23 years that I've been giving the TrigStar test to schools in the Flathead Valley. And the one thing that I've found is in the last 2 years, especially, my graduating high school where I graduated from, they have me come in once a year and I spend the entire day with one teacher's classes. And it ranges from just the very simple math, just to get them the credit to get out of high school, all the way up to your pre-calculus classes and kids. And it's amazing that you don't have to be great at math necessarily, but to have that interest in math. I've received so many questions and excitement from the kids who are in, lower level math classes, who still have an appreciation for math, but they love the outdoors. They love the idea of surveying. And so you don't have to be a straight A student to get into this.
That's correct. And you're right. And that's what I always try to instill in our presentations and having our directors talk about TrigStar is that, yes, if you're a math whiz, yeah, you're probably if you're a math whiz, you probably don't like to go outside or be involved in anything like that. It's more higher mathematics things, and even, physics and science. But you're exactly right. If you have a great passion for math and some ability, yeah, this is perfect for you. So I love your approach at that. And I also applaud you for spending the time. And I think that's part of the struggles we have within the profession is people are trying to find that time. And so when I hear stories of people like yourself that do spend that time, I applaud and just, I'm so thankful that we do have people out there that can make the time, because like I said, it's unfortunately, you're in private industry, you see how busy things are, and making that time makes it special for the students.
Yeah. And it's not easy to find that time, but there is a need to get people into the profession. And so we try and we do what we can where we can.
Well, that rolls me into my next question, because by going in and providing this background and this input for these students, it is a loose form of mentorship. Can we talk about any significant mentors in your life, early in your career? I mean, who inspired you to want to do all of these things and be this fantastic surveyor that is trying to cover all these bases?
I feel so incredibly just lucky and blessed to have had the mentors that I have in this profession. And I have 6 of them. And each one of them has given me such a unique, special outlook on surveying and teaching and instruction. And, it started with Linda Smith. She was the one who did the Expanding Your Horizons. I knew her from the community, not well, and she did some demonstrations in my high school. And then I got to know her through MARLS, our Montana Association of Registered Land Surveyors. And she really influenced me. She's a strong surveyor. She's a strong woman. She brings a lot to the profession. She was our MARLS president for, a year, and she's just wonderful. And then, Dave Dorsett, my surveying instructor, he was just instrumental in instilling in me all of the knowledge that, I needed for surveying. And then, the 4 partners in my office, they were all incredible to work with. Tom Sands, Dan Breen, Bill Rykoff, and Milt Fretheim. They all poured into me, and I learned so much from them. They would bring me into their office when they were discussing a job, and we would just talk about the solutions. What should we do in this situation? What laws need to be applied in this? And having that conversation and being part of that really helped me become the surveyor that I am.
That's fantastic. And that's really what it is all about, which kind of leads into the next agenda item that I really want to address, this being Women's History Month and Women in Surveying. With your experiences, especially coming into a survey office in the Great Plains, I'm so glad to hear about Linda Smith and how much she influenced you in your career. But let's be honest, you go in 95% of all surveying firms, if not higher number, it's male dominated. And to come in there and to A, be accepted, but B, the question I have is how women complement the profession, because the few I've been able to work with, they've been fantastic PLSs. They do offer such a different perspective that from, I can't see through their lenses, and it's nice to have that different mindset when you're dealing with, especially, and I think it would be even better going into business as a partner with them eventually as well. So tell us a little bit about the interactions you've had and the positivity that obviously your partners have really bestowed upon you.
Well, we definitely think differently. And I noticed that a lot in the field. It seems, when Bill would be at the instrument and I would be on the rod, and he would be teaching me and instructing me on where to go and what to do. I could tell the radio would go silent sometimes because he would tell me to go right and he saw me go left, and not necessarily directionally, but just
right.
Didn't click with, our thinking and communication. And, but we figured it out. We worked together. We figured out a solution. In the office, I think it's so great to have both of us working together, because I can look at it from one perspective, and, Tom, Dan will look at it from another perspective. And that allows us to actually converge on a better solution at times.
Oh, exactly. Exactly. And that's, I was trying to think back to our conversation in Montana, because you're exactly right. And this, I always, whichever it is, whether it's the right brain, left brain thing, or the Mars and Venus thing, whatever, it's, for most male surveyors, this is a task. I got to get it done. I'm a problem solver. Whereas, and like I said, the wonderful PLSs that just happen to be women I've worked with in my career, it's a little bit different in that it's a little more thought provoking, and it's, what if we look at it from this side? What if we look at it from that side? And it's not just, I need an answer on this boundary right now. I need an answer on this, how this topographic grid looks right now. And that's what I like, is that balance.
Absolutely. But that's why I like that balance as well, is because, well, Tom, he's now retired, and we have another president, my partner, and he and I went to Flathead Valley Community College together, and he's worked in our company for, many years as well. And so he's the same way. They're very, they would like an answer. They want to make a decision. And yet I can come in with a couple options and we can discuss them, and that allows them to make that final decision. I'm not the best at making those quick final decisions, but I am good at bringing ideas to the table, and they can then take those ideas and put them into action. It works really well.
It is. It's a great compliment to have both. Yeah, like I said, from both perspectives of, yes, we need to get it done, but yes, we need to be thinking about different viewpoints and different aspects of what we're trying to accomplish. So, yeah, I'm a big proponent for it. So, I guess that kind of brings me to the next question for the profession is, what can we be doing better as far as promotion and advocacy? Because this is a different profession than when you and I first started in this, and that it is much more inclusive now. There's so many more things that a whole plethora of people can do in the profession. How do we get over those challenges, in your opinion, to make sure that we get more women and more minorities into this opportunity?
Yeah, with technology, surveying has just, to me, expanded. It was just not just boundary surveying, but it felt more limited. And now, I've processed LiDAR for 15 years and been involved in LiDAR, and we've had a helicopter that flew LiDAR. And so the technology changes to allow us to get more people involved in surveying who have different strengths. There's so many different options in surveying that they can go into. They can work in mines, they can fly drones, they can do the field work, they can do the office work, they can get into the planning and design for subdivisions. They can do all of the research. It's not like my company where we each do almost everything. Because we're small, you can get involved in a larger company where you can do what you enjoy doing in the aspect of surveying.
Exactly. And I can just tell that's part of your presentations when you do when you do TrigStar, when you do your merit badge, when you do all of these other programs and get in front of these kids that, and I guess that's what I'm trying to the message that I would like for listeners to take away from this is that there is so many opportunities, and you're a shining example of what you're going in and explaining and really putting hands on what these opportunities are for future surveyors, geospatialists, whatever you want to call them. They're just, the sky is the limit. And just hearing some of the things you're doing, I'm thinking, and I guess it's one of those things where, it'd be easy for the industry to think, well, she's in northwestern Montana, it's probably a little mom and pop survey. They go do a few little boundary surveys here and there. No, you're talking about LiDAR and helicopters and doing all of this. Technology is everywhere, and it doesn't matter where you're at. It's not centrally located to just big urban cities. It's Kalispell, Montana.
Yeah. And my original boss, who's now retired, Tom, he was at the forefront of all of that technology. When I first started with him, he was one of the first using the static GPS when a selective availability was still turned on.
Oh, wow.
And he was one of the first to purchase a LiDAR system for an airplane. I mean, we're a small company in Kalispell, and yet here we are flying LiDAR because we do major subdivisions, and we were finding that the aerial photography just wasn't good enough in the trees. We were designing and then going out to stake roads and running into cliffs because the tree cover was so dense, we couldn't get it with, photography. So we got into LiDAR. And so that's just been a really fun thing to be a part of, is seeing this technology change through the years.
That is great. That's awesome. Because like I said, I think there's this perception that, the technology is only being used in big companies and in large urban areas, and that is not the case. I mean, there's opportunities everywhere, at a high level, and you're a great example of that. Well, I would ask you what advice you would have for future surveyors, but I think really the question I need to ask is, what is your overall message when you go into a high school class and tell them, hey, this is surveying? What's your elevator speech to them about what they could be as a surveyor?
I come in with a lot of options, and I tailor it to the conversation that comes out of the students that are there. And it varies. I find that, I come in with my instruments. We do a simple math calculation with the instruments, and then I have a slideshow presentation that contains a lot of slides, and I can tailor it to, if they're super interested in technology. I talk about drones, I talk about LiDAR, I talk about maybe hydrology and mapping on rivers and waters. If they're more interested in the history, then I go and I talk to them about the PLS system, and I talk to them about the history of surveying and how the original surveyors came over after the instructions of Thomas Jefferson. And I show them the picture of Mount Rushmore and talk about the history of surveying. Or if they're more interested in my parents own property, how do those boundaries work? Then we go into boundary surveying. And I keep it open and tailor it to what that particular class of students is interested in.
Well, that's good, because I think that's where a lot of our practitioners get hung up. And when we say, oh, well, it's really on the profession to go out and promote and get that next generation. And let's be honest, most surveyors are not public speakers. They just soon just go do their job and be done with it. And especially not talking to a bunch of, bratty high school kids. But it's, and I think you've given a great example there of, you can go in with a canned presentation, but read your audience and figure out what the highlights are, what they are hitting upon, and really be able to sell that. I like that a lot. That's really great.
Yeah. And it may not sound like it, but I am extremely introverted. I am just like every other surveyor out there. I don't like to be out in public. I don't like to tell about myself, but I know that the profession needs it. And I will say, I've taught at Flathead Valley Community College now for 4 years, teaching a subdivision laws and design class, and speaking in front of kids or students for those 4 years has helped me be able to speak in public. Before that, I don't know that I would have come on the show with you.
No, I doubt that, but you know what? I can appreciate that, because yes, you're right. If you just said 10, 15 years ago that, we'd be doing these things and hosting podcasts and various things, I'd say, no, nope, no way. But it's nice to expand your boundaries, no pun intended, and figure out what you're good at, and being able to be able to share that story. And that to me is the biggest thing, is sharing great career stories like yourself, and being able to hear that. I really think there's a lot of students out there that obviously can draw from that, because you're giving a lot of time of yourself to all of this, and it really shows in what your passion is. And I'm just thrilled that I was able to meet up with you. Like I said, I'd heard from several sources that you gotta check out this Jamie lady. She's a surveyor. I mean, she is a surveyor now, and it's like that. That's fantastic. And I'm like I said, I'm so glad we were able to connect. The last question I always wrap up with, and I won't be any different with you, is how's the future of surveying look to you?
I think surveying is going to continue to play an important role. The look of it, some of it will stay the same, but I think some of it is going to evolve and change. I've been through many legislative sessions in Montana, and laws change, but surveyors are still here, and the big changes in technology are bringing the ability for more people to come in and work in surveying, with GPS, with GIS. We thought construction machine control was going to hurt our construction surveying. Well, actually it didn't. We're just as busy with construction surveying as we were back before it was there. We need people for LiDAR to process that data. There's so much data that comes with LiDAR, and some people are geared more toward that data analysis than they are, and can come in and work with surveyors and in a surveying company and process that data. So there's so many areas of surveying that people can get into and find their interests. And, land is valuable. Surveyors play an important part in maintaining that integrity of boundaries. And I don't see that changing.
Exactly. Well, and I tell you what, I do want to step back just for a second, since I completely forgot, your role within the Montana Society, and the important legislative role that you've taken on for the last several years. And you share that with us for just a couple of minutes. That the fact that like you said, the laws change, things change, but we're still around. But share with us your experience as far as the legislative side, and how important it is to be involved from an association, both state and national perspective, on how staying involved with the legislation is very important.
It is very important. This year I'm co-chair of the legislative committee for Marls, and we are monitoring, about 30 bills right now going through the legislature. We're halfway through the legislative session. Montana meets every other year, so every odd year for 90 days. We just finished our 41st half, the first 45 days, and so we're on transmittal break this week, and then it starts up again. So all of the bills that have gone through one house are ready to go into the other. And of the 30 or so that we were watching, there's still about 25 that are making it through the process. And it's so important to be involved in that, because if there is something surveying related or planning related, we're able to work with the bill sponsors and request amendments and educate the legislators, because so many people, as you know, don't know really the role of surveyors. And so being able to educate that and make amendments to make these bills a positive solution is what we're currently doing.
Exactly. Well, and having sat through some of the legislative committee discussions there in Montana, and hearing how much you've got your hands into all of that, and it's well, on top of everything else you've got going on, business partner, raising a family, teaching at Flathead Valley, and now on top of all of the stuff with all of the other programs. Jamie, thank you for taking time to even talk to me. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. I would call myself a nerd for surveying. I really, really love the profession.
Well, it's quite obvious. And like I said, I'd heard that, and it's been an honor to meet you and get to know you a little bit. And you are a role model for a lot of future surveyors out there. And I just want to make sure that people hear that and hear what's possible, because just when we put our heads down at night and say, well, there's just not enough time to do these things, I'm now going to think of you and saying, well, she's doing this and she's doing that and she's doing this and she's raising a family. So really, I've got no excuse. I need to just buckle down and be able to do more. And I think that's what I think that, a little bit of a challenge out there to all of our listeners, that it can be done. It really can be done, and with great success. So Thank you for joining me, and wish you best in the legislative sessions coming up and everything else you've got going on. And besides that, snow is going to melt one of these days, and it's going to be getting back to a lot more work, I would assume.
Yeah, it'll be picking up here. Snow's slow to go this year, but it's going away.
Well, very good. Well, that'll wrap us for this week on Surveyor Says. Thank you, Jamie, for joining me. We've got we're going to continue. We've got several great ladies coming up in the next several weeks, since March has 5 Wednesdays in it this time. We're going to have five week drops for 5 great stories. So we appreciate everybody tuning in, subscribing, and we'll see you soon. Thank you. You've been listening to the Surveyor Says podcast, brought to you by the National Society of Professional Surveyors. If you have any questions about today's episode or any other topic, please email us at info@nsps.us.com, and we are here to help. Visit our website, nsps.us.com, to learn more about our association, the programs we administer and support, our sustaining members, and information about future episodes of Surveyor Says. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify, as well as our podcast host, Podbean. And remember, it's a great day to be a surveyor.